Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Randye Kaye, author of Ben Behind His Voices. Randye, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul.
Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Okay, that's a very good question, and I like that it's specific about the process, where they are in the process of currently writing their book. I think the best piece of advice I got was to keep the reader's needs in mind. My book happens to be a memoir, which does also include advice in sidebars, but I took a creative writing class as I was getting all this down on paper, and people kept saying, what's in it for the reader? What's in it for them? Don't write it for you. This is not therapy. Write it for the reader. So whether you're writing nonfiction or fiction or a memoir, you always have to think about the reader and what you want them to get out of the experience. What do you want them to feel or to know or to do as a result of reading your book? And a good way to do this is also to think about, go through your local bookstore or look on Amazon, although I think the bookstore is, in a way, better. It's just more visual and hands-on, but just imagine, where would your book be? What section would it belong in? Where would a reader go? What section would they go to find your book helpful? So in a short phrase, always keep the reader's needs in mind and write it for that.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Well, I think probably most of your other authors have said the same thing. It's just knowing how to reach out and generate that interest from an agent or a traditional publisher. That was the route I wanted to take. And you want to know how to do that, how to reach out to the right people, and to write an effective proposal in approachable prose that will generate interest in your book, make it stand out from the crowd. I would say that was part of the hardest part of the process for me. However, I will add that I did end up getting an agent and a publisher, but if I didn't, all the things I learned in learning to reach out to them were things that would come back to help me if I were going to self-publish or hybrid publish and try to reach out to readers. So each piece informs the other.
Well, this connects perfectly to our next question, and that is to please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Well, in addition to being an author, I'm also a professional speaker, and a radio personality. So it was right up my alley to get in front of groups with my message. Certainly a book is a very effective way to get a message across if somebody picks up the book to read it. But I'd say the strategy that I used, so let me just give you a little bit of background. It took me 6 months to get the book down on paper and about 4 years to get it proofed, rewritten, looked at, get an agent, that whole process of finally getting it into a publisher's hands as I was continuing to rewrite it as I went took about 4 years. So I had a lot of time to try to create buzz about this book. And the best way to do it was to start getting your message in front of potential readers, even if the book isn't out yet. Do some public speaking. Notice newsworthy related topics. If you have a book that's nonfiction or memoir or even a historical novel or any kind of novel, there may be something in the news that's related to them. So offer your slant. Be aware of buzzwords. Be aware of sound bites, things that you can offer as the author of or author of the forthcoming book, fill in the blank, that will give you credibility, and you can start commenting on news stories. You can do book readings in front of the public, even when the book is still in manuscript form. one of the most effective things I did was to get my message in front of groups. And sometimes I got paid to do that. But if I didn't, I would ask if there was any way somebody could record me and provide a video of me doing a book reading from the book. And then I would take it and edit it down to a 2-minute video and put it on YouTube. So these were things that started to create buzz before the book was even published. And I started to collect names for my mailing list. So when the book was published, I could send that out to a lot of people.
Well, that's a great strategy because we've had people on the show before talk about doing book readings, but what you have just mentioned is very innovative. The fact that you had someone record your book reading, after it was done, you went back, you edited it, and then you posted it on social media. That is such a great strategy.
Thank you. And of course, you want to attach the right keywords to it and so forth. I'll tell you a quick story that will illustrate this if we have time. Do we have time for
We
a
have
quick 1-minute story?
we have time.
So what my book is about, it's a memoir about the development of mental illness, specifically schizophrenia, in my son, what our family went through, and how we came out the other side. So it's been behind his voices, one family's journey from the chaos of schizophrenia to hope. So I made sure in that subtitle I had the word schizophrenia, I had the word voices, I had the word hope, because that was a very important part and something that distinguishes my book from the other tales with more tragic endings about schizophrenia. And so when I would present at places to try to help other families go through it, I made sure that those keywords were also in the video. And one tip, when you put video, it should be as professional as possible. You should try to be mic'd. People will turn off a video if there's bad sound. So if you are speaking in public, make sure that whoever's videotaping it has a wireless mic going from you to their camera. Or what I did is we had some cable access channels that would come and record local events and put it on the air. And so they always did the sound. There are ways that you can have interns. I'm doing a speech in a couple of months, and they're going to have local communication students come and record it, just so that the sound is excellent. That's even more important than the visuals. So, and make sure it's editable into sound bites, because people don't like long videos anymore. So I did post a few of those things on YouTube. I started a channel just about that. And when the book finally did come out, I started getting some calls from major pharmaceutical companies saying, we'd like to talk to you about coming to speak to our sales companies. Would you like to do a keynote for our convention in Warsaw? Like, all these opportunities seemed to fall into my lap, but they really didn't. It was because I did the prep work. I did contract with a pharmaceutical company for a year, and they used me. I made certainly in 5 figures with them, more on the speaking than I did on the book for that first year. And I finally, when I had a relationship with them, asked them, so how did you find me? And she said, I was searching the search word schizophrenia, memoir, and there you were. And up popped this video, which, by the way, was that video that I had done a year before the book was published. And it was on the strength of that video that they hired me to do professional speaking, and sold about 1,000 copies of my books to people who attended their conferences. So it turned out to be a very good way to sell books after the fact and create buzz before the fact.
Well, and one thing about the video too, there's 2 things I always feel critical to having a video. One, I agree, you need to have some sort of mic, and you can get a mic as inexpensively as $50 to $60 on Amazon and eBay. You get a clip mic, you get other different mics that will work with your video equipment. But the other thing too, and I want to get your thoughts on this, I'm a big
Mhm.
believer in captions. So Rev will actually do video captions of your videos for like $1 a minute. And what we have done on a lot of our videos is we've used the captions because not everyone necessarily is going to be watching with the sound on. Sometimes they're at work or they might have earbuds in. What are your thoughts with captions? Because I'm a big fan of those.
I have to say that when I first put these videos on, captioning was not the easy option that it is now. Things keep changing. So my captions were more like, this is Randye reading from her book, or contact Randye at randy@randyekaye.com. So I would love to go back to my videos and caption them with what I'm actually saying, because you're right. A lot of people are watching, I hate to say it, but like they're at a corporate meeting and they're bored and
Yeah.
so don't do this, don't try this at home. But people do watch and they don't want to disturb the people, and sometimes they don't want to take out earbuds and put them in their ears. They just want to watch a video. So I think captioning nowadays more than ever before is a very important thing, and I do plan to go to my videos and start having them captioned.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So, what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Okay, so I wasn't sure what you meant by this question, so I have two answers.
Fair enough.
So, I'm not a person that is like, "Ooh, what's your favorite?" Because I love so many different things. But there is only one book I've read 3 times, a fiction book, and it's a Stephen King book called The Stand.
Mm.
And the reason I love this book, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's been made into a movie a couple of times. Pretty much everyone on the planet dies from a flu, but there's a percentage of people left, and it's all about how they find each other and rebuild society, and good versus bad, and who's going to win. That's it in a nutshell. And I'm trying to ask myself, why do I love this book so much? For me, I think the reason is it reinforces for me that we have a need as people to gather, be together, to need each other, that everybody has a skill in this world that matters. So that if you have a book to write about plumbing, your book is needed because people need to know about plumbing. If you have a book to write about schizophrenia, then that is needed too. We all really matter. We all have different areas of expertise, but we need each other to create a society with all these different skills. In this book, the person who was a doctor, the only doctor in town, was so revered. So, in these days when we kind of take each other for granted or think we can find everything on the internet, we still really all need each other in person. We need each other's messages in the books that we write. We can't always be there in person, but that's why we write, to kind of have a conversation with our reader. So I love that book. Regarding publishing, I like a book called Get Known Before the Book Proposal, which is similar to the types of tips that I've given you there. It's about building your platform for your book even before the book gets out, and I found that helpful. So those are a couple of my favorite books.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
I love the quote from a Leonard Cohen song called "There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." And it's for any of us that feel flawed or imperfect, which is probably 100% of us. And just to remember, it's through those broken places that they're cracked. That's how we bring light into our lives, and we can bring light into the lives of others by the lessons we've learned from the things that got cracked, and we try to heal them. And one more is something it's a quote from me, but I'm working on another book right now called Happier Made Simple: Change Your Life 3 Words at a Time. And I believe in the power of words to change your happiness level instantaneously. And this is more than 3 words, but I think all the time that life is what you highlight. So if you look at your day and you're going to highlight bad things that people said to you or disappointments, we have to kind of catalog our day at the end of the day. I like to highlight the things I loved, because in the end, when I look back on my life, I'm going to think about the things that I've highlighted to just feel better about everything. It's what we choose to focus on that becomes the movie of our lives. So
Absolutely. Well, Randye, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
if they Google me, they'll find many ways. And my name is spelled in a very weird fashion, so I will spell it out for you. The first name is Randye with 6 letters, Randye. and the last name is Kaye with 4 letters, Kaye. So my website is randyekaye.com. If you're interested in the book itself, it is benbehindhisvoices.com. And that's where you can find information about the hardcover, the paperback, the audiobook, which I narrated myself and was nominated for an award by Publishers Weekly, and a blog about the situation. So since 1 in 4 families deals with mental illness, I hope that you'll find this book hopeful to you. Of course, it's on Amazon as well. So Randy at randyekaye.com is a good way to reach me. I also have a presence, as we all do, on Facebook and Twitter and so forth.
Well, Randy, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.